Recording na.
So good day everyone. We are your reporters for today about political self. So here are my members. Members are Akin Ruiz, John Mark Bubuli, John Lawrence B. Gabison, Luigi B. Canadalia, Mark Kenny M. Mira, Matthew Iwayan Macbien, Rigodon Kasipit, Nelson D. Aripal. So developing a Filipino identity or who is a Filipino. So the Philippines today has only emerged in the 1980s. After over 3 centuries of colonization of the Spaniards, meanwhile, the Japanese only occurred in 1946. So foreign culture, beliefs, language, and religion have made a huge dent on our own by setting a foundation to the contemporary Filipino identity and culture. So Filipino have truly developed an identity of their own, or we still living in the shadow of our colonial friend. So the individual's race, ethnicity, and physical characteristics are not the only factors that make a person's national identity. So the importance of values and traits are set apart the nationality from the others. These values and traits may not always be a positive thing, but being able to identify oneself apart from other nationalities and point out weakness and mistakes paired with unity and progress a possibility. So according to 1987 Phil Constitution, Filipino citizens are those who father or mother are citizen of the Philippines for those born before January 17, 1973 of Filipino mother who elect Philippine citizenship upon reaching the other of majority of and those who are naturalized in accordance with law. So kato na silang ng nanay passport nga nakuha within 18 pa sila and abot sila sa Philippines. So na sila citizenship and napo na siya there is a progress pod nga ng ang usa ka tawo mahimo siyang citizen diri maski kanang half even if kanang you are half Filipino then half a foreigner if you don't have a citizenship or dili ka ko og visa within wa pa ka niabot og 18 years old dili ka mahimo og Filipino citizen. So I will give an example nga dili siya qualified si katong an NBA player na si Jordan Clarkson. So kanang half Filipino to siya then wala man siya kakuha og kanang citizenship diri sa Philippines kanang wa siya kanhi diri og kanang kuha siya visa og 18 before pa siya ni 18 so dili siya ma-qualified as a Filipino. So Filipino values and traits. What do Filipinos value? So the term kapwa or shared inner self lies at the core of Filipino values and psychology. A Filipino who treats another as a kapwa has a shared or sense of identity and consciousness with the other person. So both in the individual's and community level, strong emphasis in placed on social acceptance and maintaining social harmony, such as social approval and caring about what others will think or say or do strongly influence in social behavior. So utang na loob or in Bisaya or in Cebuano, utang na kabubuton. So it is a technique of reciprocity of debt and of gratitude to others within the family circle or primary group. So sometimes unlimited in nature, emotional, rather than financial or rational. So it is a sign of marginal economy where no place is available in bargaining, formal agreements, written contracts, specific rights and responsibility. So dila siya kanang kasulatan, kanang kusa ra nimong ihatag sa usa ka tawo ang pasabot sa utang na loob. Okay? So next is pakikisama. So closely to utang na loob, so na sila similarities. So it is the value of belongingness and loyalty to the small in group with sensitivity to the feelings of the others on the principle of give and take. So pakikisama like kanang pakikihalubilo nana. So it is a folk concept of good public relationship. So kanang how you interact to other people, kanang sabay kanila, mayo ra pud mong pagsabay sa usa ka tapok inana. And avoidance of conflict with the leader or majority of the groups, kanang pakikisama like jira ka always inana. Next. So next reporter, Kia.
So, so I'm Luigi D. Canadalia. So, Kia is an expression that when people who knows each other will meet. For example, is to great or welcoming. So, control a large extent the behavior of the individual. So, depend on the others will think, say and do. Because of Hiya, Filipino cannot say no, even it is against his will to do what is being requested. So next, so
So that is
bayanihan. So bayanihan is the next. Bayanihan is a common expression among Filipino, and this rests on the fatalistic outlook and strong dependence on the spirit on who will take care of everything if they are really meant for a person. So in the Philippines, the Bayanihan spirit is a one of unity, helping others without expecting rewards. So to achieve the certain goal, uh, so Bayanihan is also mean helping one neighbors move their house. Next, authoritarianism. It is depend of the Filipinos in a paternalistic rather than in a certain way upon the elder of the family, upon the both of employed and upon people in authority as their father figure. Common practice in the Filipino family, which basically participate in nature. So the father is seen as the head that makes major decision affecting the family. So principle of the blind submission of authority as opposite to the individual freedom of thought and action. So the leader of the small eternity of conscious responsibility to the body of the people. So next, so individualism or a partner of behavior which characterize, characterize the Filipino as self-centered. So the desire to make the name for himself become the primary motivation for success. So for example, a great value on self relies on privacy, on mutual respect, or negative it embrace opportunity to the authority and to all manners of control over individual, especially when it excited by the state. So next is a more
Bay,
pro
ikaw na dira bay.
ay
I'm Nelson Aripal and Amor Profile. Individual highly emotional reaction to protect his honor and dignity when they are threatened or questioned and to related. Common and there's example of this kind of common form. These are Hili Bago QR or Pokipot which show at a person eternity refusing an offer even if he want very much to accept it. Next by Harana. Harana
So
is
these are the examples. Harana, may basa mo.
kan. This is an example of the Rana kan. The Rana is kan. Traditions in rural areas of the Philippines in which young men may formally meet single lady visitors. And next by Pagmamano. Pagmamano is used of Filipino culture performed as a sign of respect to elder and as we request a blessing from the elders. Filipino
Ako na to.
workers.
Ako na to.
Filipino workers is kan na yun, ang committee of engineering engineering professional educator and student who are expect and want to learn more about electronics and platforms. Okay, next slide.
Next.
Salawikian of proverbs. They are have six categories. First is can expressing general attitude, recommending certain values and commending certain
Ako na.
habits, and expressing a system of the values, general truth, and observation about life and human natures, humorous proverbs, and miscellaneous proverbs. And explain. Sub, superstitions. Turn the plate bean. Some lives in the middle of a meal. Reassure you host your humans. Siblings should not marry within the same years. Ano?
Okay, Boss Iwayan, can you explain this?
So, I'm Manuel Iwayan. So, salikain of Proverbs. Okay. So, these are examples of salikain or Proverbs is gone better than late than never. And second example is if someone throws stone at you, throw a bread back. And another example is you cannot pull a hair from the bald.
Okay, next.
Next. So superstitions super superstition is a superstition is any belief or practice considered by non practitioners to be irrational or supernatural. Attribute to faith or magic, perceive supernatural influence or fear of that is which is unknown. If, for example, if a friend were to say, I might get hit by a car while crossing the road, you have to knock on the wood to avoid it from happening. And another example is tabi-tabi po, a common phrase said out loud when passing through dwellings of spirits such as cemeteries or haunted grasslands. Turn your plate when someone lives in the middle of a meal. Reassure your host that you're human. Siblings should not marry within the same year. Serve pancit or noodles at celebration, especially birthdays. Respect the elementals. Blame your missing things on elves. Those are the examples of superstitions. Next. So, myths and legends. So, they may describe larger than life exploits or become exaggerated or change over time, but legends have strong base in history and geography. While legends are based in history, myths are based on religion or faith, beliefs, systems, and explain natural phenomena rather than tell a historical story. Uh, Myths and legends also explain a storytelling tradition. For example, Hudhud ni Aligoyon, the tales of Aligoyon. Second is why do pineapple fruits have many eyes? And last is the story of Maria Makiling. Next.
So next, I'm Mark Mira, Heroes and Icons. Heroes serve as reminders of true patriotism and nationalism as they have sacrificed their lives for their countries, freedom and progress. Next, post. Famous landmarks. Rizal Monument or in Tagalog, Bantayog ni Rizal. The Rizal Monument is a memorial in Rizal Park in Manila, Philippines, built to commemorate the executed Filipinos nationalist, Jose Rizal. The monument consists of a standing bronze sculpture of Rizal with an obelisk set on a stone base within within which his remains are interred, holding his two famous novels, El Filibusterismo and No Limitang Hire. Next, ay second, Bonifacio Monument or Monumento. The Andres Bonifacio Monument, commonly known simply as Bonifacio Monument or Monumento, is a memorial monument in Caloocan, Philippines, which was designated the national artist Guillermo Tolentino to commemorate Philippine revolutionary Andres Bonifacio, the founder of Supremo of Katipunan. Next is Lapu-Lapu Shrine. Lapu-Lapu Shrine, also known as Liberty Shrine, is a memorial park on the island of Mactan in Lapu-Lapu City, Lapu-Lapu City, Cebu, Philippines. It hosts two monuments, namely the Magellan Monument, which is dedicated on Portuguese explorer Ferdinand Magellan, and Lapu-Lapu Monument, a bronze statue which commemorates Lapu-Lapu, a native leader who defeated Spanish soldier led by Magellan in the 1521 Battle of Mactan. Next, boss. Next pa. So next is Leyte Landing Monument. It's a protected area of Philippines that commemorates the historic landing of General Douglas MacArthur in Leyte Gulf at the start of the campaign of recapture and liberate the Philippines from Japanese occupation on October 20, 1944. Next is Sandogo Shrine. It's a blood compact performed in native Bohol style between the traveling Spanish explorer Miguel Lopez de Legazpi and Dato Sicatona of Bohol on March 16, 1565 in the Philippines to seal their friendship as part of native customs. The pact was entered into Lopez de Legazpi for the purpose of ensuring friendly relations between the Spaniards and the natives. This is considered as the first international treaty of friendship between two people of different races. A Filipino and Spaniard Sandugo is a Visayan amal amalgamation term isang dugo which means one blood. Next boss, Shrine of Valor is a historical shrine located near the summit of Moment Samar in town of Pilar province of Bataan ay Samat in town of Pilar province of Bataan. In the Republic of the Philippines, the Memorial Shrine Complex was built to honor and remember gallantry of Filipino and American soldiers who fought against the Imperial Japanese Army during World War II. Sultan Kudarat Monument. The statue of Sultan Kudarat was created by Jose M. Mendoza in 1973. Muhammad Dipatuan Kudarat was the Sultan of Mindanao during the first half of 17th century. Next boss. Pinaglabanan Shrine and the Spirit of Pinaglabanan. It's a Filipino national shrine and park along Pinaglabanan Street in the city of San Juan, Metro Manila, Philippines. This was built to commemorate the heroism of Katipuneros who laid siege of Polvorin de Almacen, an armory belonging to the Spanish colonial government, becoming the first battle of the Philippines Revolution against the Spaniard Empire. Balangiga Encounter Monument, also known as Balangiga Incident, was battle that occurred during the Philippine-American War between Philippines forces and American troops. Manabos.
So we provided a few video. So gumaba lang ni like 2 minutes. So let's watch this.
democracy and citizenship spiritually. The impact of religion spiritually. The meaning of democracy in a changing world. The many changes occurring around the globe are stretching and reshaping forms of social organization and decision-making process. To meet the challenge of the times, advocates and organizers may find it helpful to revisit the meaning of democracy and citizenship in their work. Throughout the world, many countries have undergone exciting reforms that have opened up political process to people. In countries such as the Philippines and South Africa, au- authoritarian governments have been brought down. In others, governments have taken significant measures to include women and other mar- marginalized groups in public life. Countries such as Brazil, Bolivia, and Thailand have institutionalized laws about people's participation in policy making. Fairer elections have occurred without violence in dozens of countries where people have voted for the first time. But there is a long road between successful elections and accountable governments. Along this road, civil society continues to struggle for a legitimate voice and for honest, committed leaders to help guide the process. As economic globalization changes the terrain of economic development and the power of national government, the challenges for improving political structures and relationship grows. Next by the transition to democracy is a narrative of inclusion of women. What is needed is a new geography to give women space. This new space which women seek is one where there is negotiation between those with power and those without. Next slide. Challenges for democratic governance. In citizens and governance, civil society in the new millennium, the Commonwealth Foundation and civic has spelled out some challenges for democratic governance. After the end of the Second World War, newly independent countries attempt to consolidate national development efforts during the second half of the 20th century. The power and responsibilities of nation states rose to commanding heights. Yet these nation states are under siege. Forces of globalization are taking control of economic development beyond their reach. Transnational corporations and global capital markets increasingly determine the economic agenda. International International financial institutions are playing a major role in shaping decisions about trade, economy, and development. The revolution is telecommunication and information technology has brought another dimension to globalization. What some have or have not is more visible, and known to others. But the web is not worldwide. These people, countries, and regions with no access to it become marginalized and fall behind. Next slide. Universal expectations for better standards of living are putting more pressure on government to deliver. Yet at the same time, government find themselves with fewer resources and reduced cap- capacities to respond meaningfully to those expectations. In addition, new problems face humanity that cut across the borders of nation states: terrorism, drugs, HIV or AIDS, degradation of natural resources, migration, ethnic and nationalist identity politics, and religious extremism are wide, widespread. They require trans-border solution, yet existing institutions at national and international levels designed 50 years ago are providing inadequate to respond to these emerging problems. A wide array of new development actors in civil society has emerged. These are NGOs, women organizations, cooperatives, self-help groups, and myriad of other forms of civil society organization, both secular and religious. More resources, human and financial, are going to this organization. Their experiences, the cap- the capacity, the capacities are being increasingly used by government and intergovernmental bodies. Greater attention, visibility, and influence are being gained by them. At the same time, citizens themselves are being expected and exhorted to play their part in development. Next slide. Discussing democracy. Although democratic political reforms have been welcomed, and devastating side effects of other changes have been hard on some people, especially the marginalized. These economic and political negatives have stimulated analysis and reflection by a wide range of international organizations. Next slide.
Overload of commercial messages. Organized and ill-served by the organization that mobilize their vote and claim to represent their interest. The crisis of legitimacy faced by institutions in the eye of poor people and a growing number of middle-income citizens is now widely documented. Drawing from participatory research in 23 countries, that recent consultation with poor report prepared by the World Bank for the World Development Report 2001 concludes, not surprisingly, poor men and women lack confidence in the state of institution, even though they still express their willingness to partner with them under fairer rules. Next slide. So, the meaning of democracy is often controversial among activists. In many workshops, people have resisted a full discussion of democracy because it often provokes heated, even angry debate. This is partly because some people seem to equate democracy with the external imposition of models that do not seem to fit the reality of their context. This is especially true where the promise of democracy has not materialized. This resistance also sometimes arises out of confusion about the relationship between political democracy and economic liberalization. In some places, democracy means free market, and people's experience with the free market has been mixed and the subject of considerable debate. It is precisely it is the precisely these sensitivities that make the subject worth discussing. The following exercise, What is Democracy, helps people begin to grapple what the meaning and practice of democracy in more depth. Next slide. So, for us to understand, we need to tackle this. Common responses to what is democracy. So, leaders are accountable. The will of majority. Competition for political power, like election, like what is happening right now. We have election. Right to voice your opinion. In short, you have the freedom of speech. You can voice out your opinion or your ideas. Freedom to be part of any organization. You can be who you are if you want. Governments change and can be rejected. Equality, rights, representation, free market, citizen action, and elections. Next slide. Common responses to difficulty barriers to democracy. So poverty, apathy, corruption, abuse of power, traditional ways of doing things like family dynasty, pares anang Noynoy Aquino and his family, international forces like globalization and the IMF, political parties don't change, discrimination, inequality, in reality, people are not equal, intolerance, violence, hatred, conflict, resistance to change, and lack of information. Next slide. So, what can be done? System that force leaders and officials to talk directly to citizens. So, naik communication between the officials in the government and the citizens. So, more citizens involved in decisions. So, since natay freedom of speech, we can say what are ideas and the government will look on it. So, respect for difference and rights. Less fear and violence, less less destabilizing external forces, more ethical leaders, more organized citizens, more economic resources and opportunities like jobs, more information, and respect for sovereignty. Next. So, democracy in theory. Different concepts of democracy implicitly inform our approach to advocacy and participation. The following definition, taken from a dictionary on political theories, shows some of the basic conceptual differences. So, what is democracy? Democracy is a form of government in which supreme power is held by the people and exercised directly or through elected representatives, just like in the Philippines. So, great example of democratic country is Philippines. The word comes from the Greek for people's rule. Although democracy comes in many forms, nowadays the concept generally implies majority rule, minority and individual rights, equality of opportunity, equality under the law, and civil rights and liberty. So democracy morning gigamit ato sa Pilipinas like unlike sa UK kay ilaha kay king and queens. Liberal democracy is government characterized by the twin pillars of democratic institution. On the one hand, election, representative, legislatures, checks and balance, and democratic protection on other. The personal freedoms guaranteed by the U.S. Bill of Rights. Liberal democracies typical occurs in capitalist economies and stress private property rights. The approach emphasizes individual rights over the popular will. Next slide. So, popular democracy stresses self-rule by a free and equal people, sees government as an expression of the people's will, and thus seeks to maximize citizens' participation. It does this both electorally and in other ways, as it recognizes that the outcome of election do not always reflect the popular will. Representative or indirect democracy is the form of government in which legislation is enacted by representatives who are elected by the citizens. In contrast to direct democracy, the majority delegates the power to a minority nominated to act in their interest. The minority is mandated to do this either in response to the majority expressed wishes or according to the representative's own judgment. Direct or participatory democracy is a form of government in which citizenry itself makes legislative decisions. Instead of delegating the power to elected representatives, this is often considered the purest form of democracy. Referendums and petitions in which all voters can participate are examples of direct democracy. And lastly, social democracy is based on the belief that economic equity and social equality can be achieved through democratic institutions via redistribution of wealth within a mixed market economy and a welfare state.
So next,
Citizen
Maripal.
as citizen as maker and shapers. A decision of democracy inevitably reaches the subject of citizenship and likely democracy. The meaning of citizenship is also open to debate. For example, some politics theorists argue that a good citizen is one who displays trust and obedience. Some some believe that ordinary people lack judgment and knowledge and should therefore differ really on their leader to solve problem. Other theorists argue that individual as active citizen rapidly is disappearing and is being replaced by the individual as consumer. In contrast, people concerned about participation and advocacy say that the problem is not people are politically incompetent or detract by the consumer economy. Rather, the people is the continual concentration of the power in hand and few. They believe that one involvement by people in discussion affecting affecting them would improve both government and people quality of life. Some believe that people participation is a basic right, and the constructive engagement that with government is possible is the best way to address social and economic problem to conflict. Below scholar, the status of the development studies is the UK described active version of citizenship. Next, citizenship is learned through education, socialization, exposure to politics, public life, and day-to-day experience. Promoting acting citizen among people who have been from politics is not a straightforward task. Citizens does not just happen nationally in response to increased public space or political opportunities. Citizen more than voting a fully public obligation. It is not only choosing official and using the system. Citizenship is involved making a shaping the system structure and rules. A common version of citizen is help for advocacy. It's also important to recognize that the value of citizenship is vary from context to context. For example, in South Africa, people might define a people citizen as someone who actively fight regimes in Russia, and being good citizen might be associated with economic liberalism and individual self-reliance might be valued over collective actions. In countries that have emerged years of conflict, often a good citizen seen as one who seek peaceful resolutions of consultation and consultations. In older democracies, where a sen- signification person and citizen are not ex- exercising the right of both, citizenship is often expressed thought, participation, and activity such as the volunteer, never crime, watch the clean up efforts. In all contexts, the changing views citizens are marked by battle and determine whose concern get included as legitimate and whose get included. The outcome decide who considered for citizen and who is not. So, what kind of citizen do we want to promote? What like what scale, aptitude and value and citizenship demand? What are the responsibility of the state? How can invoke its while constructive and alliance between government, the private sector and the citizens? How we intelligent learning of this kind into advocacy and process? What does all this mean for organized and adverts adverts? Next by responding to what make a good citizen. This is the example. Is a concern about other particularly disadvantaged. Promote collective action and the collective spirit. Respect others, encourage respect for human rights, mediate, mediate and complex, encourage tolerance, is, hope, is hopeful about change, is well informed, participation in the community and national affairs, monitor powerful interests, know how to make demand, and promotes and participatory democracy in the politics at home. Next base. Common responding to what can government do. This is the example. And protect and promote right, make clear information available to people, understand what's going on, encourage sensitivity to difference based on gender, age, race, etc. Provide easily understood information about policy choice and final outcome. Involve citizens directly in policy making. Provide citizen education. And lastly, implement affirmative actions. Action of includes human or poor people in the political process. Next by common responses to what can a citizen do. Be well informed about their the community and the world. Encourage people to work together to solve problems. Encourage people to respect difference. Help to mitigate conflicts. A conflict. Educate the others and inspire other, organize others. Next one. History of citizenship concept. Civil citizenship took shape in the 19th in 18th century's Western world. It referred to right that necessary of individual freedom such as the right of the free speech and assembly, property right, and equal right before the law. Over years, including groups have fought and have this right expanded. Political citizen image emerged from struggle in 19th century. It embraces right to participate in the exercise of political power. Women, minorities, poor people, which battle into 20th centuries to gain universal suffrage, which was previously granted only male properly honored. In some countries, this struggle continues into the 21st centuries. The social citizen emerged against the background growing the inquietness of the in 20th centuries. It focused of minimum right the standard of economic cultures and social well-being disadvantaged grouping. Their allies are currently still working to gain legitimacy for the view of citizen and right. Next by citizen right and responsibility. Debate about citizenship are shaped by your understanding of the right and responsibility of one of reason and roles and responsibility of the government. People's struggle and dignity have a produced a various definition of citizenship, embracing different dimensions of right, likewise with responsibility. The right cover when the political change at some people believe that mayhem will result if all citizens jump into discu- discussion making process with their diverse interests. Others feel that accommodating diversity is the one is only way to avoid the conflict that would result in the political process where responsive to difference. We have found that is the important for people to explore government roles and responsibility and also identify areas where government and citizen have joint responsibility. Next by exercise citizen right and responsibility. This is an example. Civil and political right, freedom of association, speech, movement, and religions. The right to vote, property right, right to advocate and demand government accountability, equal right before the law, right to organize and protest, right to information, right to protection and freedom for sexual or domestic violence. Next one. Some part some participants may also include social and economic rights. This is example, right to adequate schooling, right to health care, right to sexual preference, right to job with a design range, right to decide housing, right to clean environment, right to food security, right to related reproductive health and right to development. Next slide. Common response to responsibility. Being aware to a social issue. Engaging, engaging in a public debate and political life voting. Being concerned about the taking step to combat disadvantage and injustice. Promoting collective action. treating others equally, portray- fostering tolerance and respect for human rights in all relationship and institutions, and joining others to demand the right being I be enforced. I, next presenter.
Macbien Kasipit, please report the next this slide.
Okay. Citizenship and rights, some tensions. Centuries of human struggle and scholarship lead to the adoption of a universal declaration of human rights in 1948 by the countries of the United Nations. But beyond just defending and protecting these rights, many people argue that we now need to expand human rights so that we disadvantage who have less access to resource and protections get a fairer deal. As a result, new rights such as the right to clean environment or reproductive health have been introduced through national and international initiatives. Although modern day concepts of citizenship are grounded in the nation of quality and universality, there is tension about the gap between theory and reality. Some activists reject the concept of universality and equality altogether. Even the validity of the right approach, they emphasize that difference such as race and gender can never be reconciled. Other activists point out that out the advantage of using these universal rights as aspiration for change. Despite the problems, they argue that the concept of universal rights give legitimacy to struggle for justice. It, it is in this tension, however, differences and inequality that the struggle for right and citizenship unfolds. Rights are not simply bestowed on people from a larger authority. They are product of a long history of political activism. Through such struggles include population can gain a strong sense of their role as protagonists, protagonists and citizens. Perception of power and political change strategies. What prevents and what enables citizenship to engage activity in democratic processes? What kind of skill and values do citizens need, and how can this be communicated through our advocacy activities? Identify politics and beyond. The current struggle are right, responsibilities, and citizenship had emerged in the part from the effort by some groups of the fight discrimination through that some academics call identity politics. Identity can be both individual and collective. Each person have multiple identities defined by race, gender, religion, class, age, ethnicity, sexual preference. Among their people are certain ideas such as ethnic and racial minorities have been consistently included from many societies by becoming aware of their own particular identity, and force that discriminate these groups become engaged politically. They experience their citizenship by exercising and working to expand and enforce their right. Identity politics can one hand help to build politics bonds of solidarity among people of shared identities. Discriminatory forms of political and focus narrowly on individual group interest by forming alliance with other on issues of common concerns. Included group can more effective advance and right and build more included societies. In the process, their effort hold the potential for generating new ideas about the practice of politics and citizenship, which in turn can encourage the creation of new rights. Gender and citizenship. Recent contribution from women groups and gender scholars have expanded the citizenship debates, the concept, and engaged citizenship takes the rights and responsibility of individual in the formal politics arenas and abilities then across all social relationship and institutions. Feminist activists and scholars argue that the concept of democracy, equality, and rights are as important in the home as they are in the legislature. They extended the boundaries of the common good beyond the public arena to include the family. They say that is an important form a good citizens to share. The responsibility for the caring of children and older family members as it is to be as it is to be involved in the public activities. They argue that if men took more responsibility from domestic duties, women will be more active in public and economic life. Further, parental neglect. They argue that this could also reduce men's related problems such as violence, crime, because men's lives will be more balanced at present society. Treats what happened in the private world of the family as unrelated to the citizenship for woman. However, the changes to be a citizenship of often determined by what goes on in the private world.
So that is
Thank
all
you.
for our report. But we are not done yet. We provided some video. Actually, it's a one video presentation. I hope this will work. Okay, so I will share my screen again. Okay. So
defined by these two words between being
so madungog ra ba?
religious and being spiritual. Alam niyo mga kapatid, sa ating pong journey, sa ating Christian life, we will
So this video is talking all about what are the difference between religious and spiritual.
always be defined by these two words, okay? Yung pagiging religious or pagiging spiritual. Now let's talk about being religious. if you're part of a religion or a church or any organization, ito po yung ating pong mga expression of faith, the way we worship, di ba yung mga member tayo po ng isang samahan na talagang pare-pareho tayo ng interest on how we connect with God, how you sing, how you pray, yung doctrines po na pinaniniwalaan natin in that particular community. Now, meron pa pong isang point dito, yung pagiging spiritual. Now, being spiritual is different from being religious. Spirituality talks about our inner connection with God, yung inner awareness po natin sa ating Diyos, and yung ating inner awareness on how we will really connect with some people, with other people. It includes our inner peace, the purpose. Alam po natin yung purpose natin. Pag may mga pagsubok, alam mo na kahit na walang church, walang community, you are spiritual. Meron po tayong mga kanya-kanyang interpretasyon sa mga nangyayari sa buhay natin. Minsan kapag kapangit yung nangyayari, being spiritual means that you are full of hope. Now, itong pagiging religious po at pagiging spiritual ay talagang magkaiba. And Jesus is always encouraging us, okay, to just not be religious, but to be spiritual at all times. You know why? One time po meron siyang conversation sa mga Pharisees at ito po yung kanyang sinabi. Sabi niya gano'n sa Matthew 15 verse 8, "They honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me." Alright mga kapatid, in that one sentence ay pinakita po ni Jesus Christ yung pagiging religious at pagiging spiritual. Okay? They honor me with their lips because the lips, it talks about externals. Di ba? Yung mga outward expression. Sabi ko kanina po sa atin yung mga
So that's all for today. I hope you understand our report. This is John Lawrence Gabison, and my members are Wayan Matthew Neil, Canadalia Luigi, Mira, Mark Kenny, Ruiz Akin, Bubuli John Mark, Aripal Nelson, Kasipit Macbin. And that is all our report. Thank you.